I want to welcome all the citizens to the City Council meeting on Tuesday, October 26, 2021. And I would ask that everyone please stand for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes. Mr. Battle.
Here.
Mrs. Lucas Burke.
Here.
Mr. Moody.
Here.
Dr. Whitaker.
Here.
Mr. Woodard.
Here.
Mayor Glover.
Here. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Members of council, we have for our consideration the minutes of a called meeting on October 12, 2021, a regular meeting on October 12, 2021, and of a special called meeting on October 19, 2021. Is there any discussion of the minutes? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Madam Clerk, would you please read our speaker statement?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
We have now come to the city manager's report, item 21-320. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting Virginia Trees for Clean Water grant funds in the amount of $3,750 from the Virginia Department of Forestry and appropriating said amount into the FY 2022 grants fund for use by the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism to plant trees along Afton Parkway.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Madam Clerk, are there any registered speakers?
Not on this item, no, sir.
Is there any discussion from my colleagues on council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 21-321. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting aid to localities funding in the amount of $386,677 from the Virginia Department of Fire Programs and appropriating said funds in the FY 2022 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
Council members, is there any discussion from any of you? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 21-322. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting radiological emergency preparedness program funds in the amount of $700 from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and appropriating said amount in the FY 2022 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services.
Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
Are there any registered speakers for this item, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Is there any discussion from members of council? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 323. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting local emergency management program grant funds in the amount of $57,992 from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and appropriating said amount in the FY 2022 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Council members, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 21-324. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the grant of easement to the Hampton Road Sanitation District encumbering property located in Suffolk.
Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Are there any registered speakers, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Council members, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
We have now come to new business and item 21-325. Vice Mayor Barnes and Dr. Whitaker, are there any appointments to bring forward?
No appointments.
Thank you, sirs. Item 21-326, item submitted by council. Council members, do you have any items to submit? Vice Mayor Barnes, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just want to give you guys an update, a brief update of a couple of things that went on since our last meeting. Myself, the mayor, and Councilman Whitaker participated in Norfolk State Homecoming Parade. Even though we were in Norfolk, it was good to see a lot of Portsmouth people in Norfolk. And myself, I was a graduate of Norfolk State University. Also, myself, the mayor, and Councilwoman Lisa Lucas Burke attended the ribbon cutting for the book club, which is a minority-owned business. They're selling candles, coffee, and books, and a host of other things. They're located at 620 High Street. So if you have any time to go check them out, please do so. And that, also I wanted to see, I know we asked on March 9th to get a forensic audit. I wanted to see what the status was regarding that forensic audit.
I'm going to have to report back on that because I'm not familiar with what you're requesting.
I know that was a vote that we had on that day.
A
Also,
forensic audit?
yes. And also on March 29th, Councilman Whitaker mentioned to you about the, I'm sorry. Councilman Whitaker mentioned to you about summer jobs for high school students with bon secours. Did we ever get a follow-up from that?
We did, and we submitted a report on that, but I'll find it and send it back again if necessary.
Okay. And that's it for me.
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I was asked, we got a really exciting email today that came from Ms. May Breckenridge of the African American Historical Society. They have a mural that has been painted at our visitor center. And it's time to celebrate, to go and see that. It is of the 1923 Norcom faculty It was an original old 1922 picture that has been redigitized in bright colors, and that is for view on, at the Visitor Center here in Portsmouth. So if you have an opportunity to go there and see that, it will be a piece of interesting historical information for you. Also, if you're looking to get your booster shots, if you've already been fully vaccinated, over at the Military Circle at the old Macy's, we have the CDC, the Virginia Department of Health, is going to be offering booster shots if you're looking for that next round of vaccination coverage that will be available for you. And on tomorrow, this is put out through our city email, but if you're looking to hear what our Chief of Police, Prince, has to say, there will be a forum tomorrow at the Police Academy on Columbia Street tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, ma'am. Vice Mayor Barnes, sir.
Two things I forgot to mention. Also, since our last meeting, I attended 2 high school homecomings, which was Churchland High School, and that was 2 weeks ago, and the historic IC Norcom High School, which I am a graduate of. And it was good to see a lot of people in the crowd, a lot of old faces, just enjoying and having fun for the city. So those were the 2 things that I left out.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Woodard, sir, you have the floor.
Oh, and just one more other thing as well. Shout out to our Parks and Rec Department for putting on a trunk or treat this past Saturday, I'm sorry. They did an excellent job. I saw a lot of families out. So we just want to let you know that the city is providing activities for our community. And I saw it was a nice turnout, a lot of families, a lot of kids, had a whole bunch of bags full of candy. So I'm glad that we are having successful events and see that we'll be having more in the future.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is regarding our city manager and is relating to the Lincoln Cemetery discussion that we've had. At our next meeting, would like to get an update on where we are with Lincoln Cemetery, particularly with the view of putting out an RFP eventually to not just cut the grass, but to bring that cemetery up to the standard that it should be and the standard that our ancestors deserve. I know we had some discussion a couple of months ago, and it regarded some ownership issues, the conditions out there, but I think we need to look at that from a viewpoint of elevating that to the quality that we would want our ancestors to be buried in. And so I would like to have that discussion if there's no objection from council on that. And that, like I said, that goes beyond just grass cutting.
Yes. Understood.
Okay. And the second is we also had the discussion about the African Heritage Historical Society and the museum. And I know we've had quite a bit of discussion with ARPA funding, but we need to bring that to the table in regards to looking at using the old Sports Hall of Fame or another building, but in the light of putting it in a strategic standpoint where it's something that is attractive with what we already see in other cities that we can be a part of, the museum systems that people would travel to see.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that we really need, particularly since in a few more months we're going to be going into budget season, and so would like to have that discussion as well. And Vice Mayor Barnes mentioned the Barnes Secure summer jobs. However, in addition, the summer jobs, I know we're in COVID issues, but just report to us where we are as far as providing these summer jobs for our youth. I think we need to aggressively pursue that. Once again, our budget season is coming up, and making sure that those things are in place. And then lastly, our legislative package, is that next month?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So those, Lincoln Cemetery, the African Historical Society, the museum, summer jobs for our youth, those are those three issues there. Okay.
Got it.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Moody, then Councilmember Battle, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Reference the Lincoln Cemetery too. I think the last discussion I had mentioned along with the report back, and I support the need to get that cemetery in proper shape. But I also mentioned I want to hear what the liability of the ownership is in regard to that perpetual care. And I would also like to congratulate the organizers of the Come Home to Craddock event. Failed to mention that at our last meeting, but they did a terrific job, as they do every year, inviting the alumni of Craddock High School and those who formerly lived in the Craddock community back to Craddock. It was a fantastic day, good weather. And I did notice something while I was out there that I would like for the city to look into, and that's the trees in the square area. They in real need of some serious pruning. It's to the point that the American flag there is hardly visible doing different events in Craddock. Thanks. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And Councilmember Battle, sir, you have the floor.
I attended the announcement along with the mayor and Ms. Lucas Burke of the wind tunnel electrical grid that will be located in Portsmouth at the Port Authority. It'll bring some 300 jobs. It will deal with the construction, installation, and the repair. And it'll gather enough electricity to service 660+ thousand homes. And this is 1/6 of the request that the president made, and we're the first ones, this city of Portsmouth, that were given the opportunity to put this in place. And I want you to be proud of yourselves, because your city is one of the most important cities in the Tidewater area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker,
Yes,
sir, you have the floor.
Let me add an addition. I forgot to mention not just Lincoln Cemetery, but also Fisherville and Mount Calvary. Want to include those African American cemeteries that have been neglected. And follow up to Councilman Battle, and speaking of the state project, are we going to get any information on how that project will specifically benefit Portsmouth? Because when you say these jobs are coming, how many Portsmouth folks will be getting jobs? What type of jobs will they be? What will the pay be? Also, are we able to tax any of that property that will be
The governor said
assembled?
that we'll be getting a large amount of taxation from the project yearly, and the EDA will be training the citizens in this city to prepare them for those jobs.
Okay, now, when he says a large amount of tax, do we have any indicate, okay, yeah.
Dr. Whitaker, if I may, if the city manager could address your question?
Yes.
Ma'am?
That's part of the next steps, is to talk specifically about what's going to happen there and then how the city will be able to tax whatever is going on. A lot of that property is going to be state property,
Right.
but there could be machinery and equipment and those things that we will need to get an idea of what it is. And so we're starting to have those conversations, and we will have better information once we actually sit down and start planning out the next steps, the milestones that need to happen. Still in the early stages right now, so we really do not have anything definitive, but we've already talked about setting up a team to identify those things.
Can we hear from our city assessor at the next appropriate time?
Sure.
To give us, because I know we tax the equipment at the terminal. Right, right. So
Yes.
I think he should be able to give us some indication of what we're speaking of tax-wise, because I just keep hearing about
Yes.
it's coming to Portsmouth,
Yes.
but I want to.
Yes,
how
we
gonna
want something
benefit.
definitive.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I was told that the contract had already been negotiated, and of course, none of us have seen the contract, but the conclusion of the contract had been done. And one of the persons who was in the negotiating process, that was his conveyance. But of course, you know, I'm like you, I like to read those contracts myself. You know, even any report or anybody bringing back to tell us that we're children, and we're not reading the contract isn't popular with me.
Thank you, sir.
Also, Ms. Mayor, any indication from the state as far as minority participation in the contracting process?
That is definitely something that was mentioned, but we want to see more tangible information. So when we get that packet, the port is leading this whole process, so we have already talked about setting up meetings to discuss this and getting that information so that we can provide regular feedback to the council.
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
just pointing this out because, I mean, these are the critical questions that we need to be asking, and also our citizens need to be conscious of, and not just be excited that a project is coming here, but we need to see some tangible benefit.
We're asking those questions. That was one of the first questions we asked in the preliminary meeting, was how are minority and women-owned business going to be able to participate in this project? And how are we hiring staff? And specifically, what do we need to do now to gear up Portsmouth residents to be able to hold those jobs?
Right, and see, although that's a state project, I understand, it just goes to show how it's important that we have to have an MWBE, Minority Women Business Enterprise policy in place, particularly for our local projects. And then at the state level, I know they have some guidelines. But if we don't inquire or push on these issues and be intentional about it, it's not going to happen.
And we are.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me, sir. Vice Mayor Barnes had his hand up first. Sir, Vice Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
Specifically, I just want to know, so is there a contract already in place?
That's what I was told.
I'm not aware of a contract at this point, and I'm not even sure of a contract with who. There are several entities involved in this project. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the port is leading this, and once they get whatever information they're going to get from those contracts, we're going to be at the table to talk about process and who's involved and what timelines and all of that.
Go ahead, sir.
So were we at the table at all in this, other than just showing up to the presentation?
We've been at the table in terms of ensuring it's part of our economic development strategies, in terms of presenting Portsmouth as a location that could handle this and benefit from this type of project. But in regards to how the project came about and all that, that is a port and state and Dominion Energy project.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Woodard, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, man. I know we got off track a little bit about the off-wind shore project, but I just wanted to ask Mr. Baldwin if he's familiar with a potential project that be coming before council, apartment complex. I think it's located behind the Lincoln Cemetery. Is there any site improvements for drainage in that area?
Mr. Baldwin, would you come forward, please, sir?
Possibly to help out with the flooding and, you know, just improvements of the cemetery itself.
I'm not sure how it would affect the cemetery, but certainly any development that goes on, an apartment complex, must go through site plan approval and has been mentioned to the planning commission when those kind of questions come up. One difference between, let's say, a redevelopment site from a prior development site or a new development site is requirement to hold water where there was no requirement before. So generally, when you redevelop property, the stormwater is better for properties around it because you're able to control more of the water on site. So if there's a new project being built, there's definitely a stormwater requirement that is applied during the site plan process.
Okay, would that include BMPs or?
Yes, that always includes B&Ps on sizable developments, certainly.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And Councilwoman Lucas Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, council colleagues, for the discussion regarding the off-wind shore project. That is a bill legislation that was patroned by State Senator L. Louise Lucas, President pro tempore of the Virginia Senate, and that contract is between Dominion and Simmons Gamesa. So they are the persons who took possession of the land over at PMT. It is in the city of Portsmouth, so we would have no more hand-in or authority to go in and direct anybody other than someone else who would be owning a property and conducting their own business, so that we don't get to go in and call those shots, but we can definitely be at the table to ensure that Portsmouth citizens get an opportunity to participate, that minority and women businesses and contractors get to participate in some part of that process. So if you would like to see the legislation, which I'm sure has some outlines about the taxation and about the minority participation, you can visit Senator Lucas's office, and she would be delighted to share the bill that she patroned in the General Assembly last year.
Vice Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
In that bill, do you know if she negotiated jobs for Portsmouth residents, guaranteed jobs for Portsmouth residents?
Absolutely. She's always advocating for Portsmouth residents. So out of the 300 jobs that are proposed, I guess that's where we come in to make sure that we are advocates on the ground floor, pushing people who we know who have the skills and the knowledge and the expertise and the resources to be able to go and to take advantage of those. So definitely.
So it is a requirement for them to hire Portsmouth residents?
I'm not sure of the exact details in it, but Senator Lucas is always advocating for Portsmouth residents first, and that's why she advocated for that bill to be patroned by her here in this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for your comments. One thing I would like to just add to that discussion, one of the most important concepts that we have to remember, and Mr. Battle alluded to it, with this new company coming, Siemens Gamesa coming to the city of Portsmouth, this is the first company of its kind in the offshore wind industry that is coming to Portsmouth instead of anywhere else in the United States. That's a big deal. And what it is going to bring, in addition to that, certainly we want our minority and women business owners to get up to speed, and there'll be programs and processes for that. But in addition to the 300 jobs and the $200 million investment, there will also be a supply chain that will supply all of the services and other materials to this effort. And what that means is those supply chain businesses will come up right here in the city of Portsmouth and create real opportunities, create real tax opportunities for revenue. And so we're excited. Portsmouth was chosen, and we look forward to welcoming Siemens Gamesa to the Portsmouth family. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, let me just say, it's only a big deal if all of us can benefit from the deal. Okay, our history is replete with how we have had businesses come in communities and they're applauded. And when you look at it, the community is still left in the same condition before the business came. And so I think we have to do more than just grandstand and parade and cheer about it. But if it's not going to elevate, and I hope it does, but like I said, we have to be intentional and make sure that it's going to elevate the quality of life for our citizens that heretofore has not happened. Then we can cheer.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Before I was kind of interrupted, let me say that it was nothing unique or invincible that we did. They chose us. The reason why they chose us is we have a channel that's 60 feet deep that the Army Corps of Engineers keep that way so the ships, military ships can come in. No other place fits that description in this country. And we don't have loose impediments or man-made impediments to keep them from being able to come in here. All of the other areas did. So it's our strategical location, along with we ship more goods than anywhere in the country. We have a military base, one of the oldest ones. We have a casino coming. In other words, it's nothing that people do so unique when we're dealing with economic development. Also, this week, we will have the grand opening of a refrigeration plant. The refrigeration plant will give 60 jobs and will be $60,000 plus for each of the workers. They didn't come here by accident. They came to be close to where the seafood comes in. It makes no sense to ship seafood to another city when they can put the plant here and take it right off the ship. So economic development has nothing to do with geniuses. It has a lot to do with, can they make money and can we accommodate them? And it's up to us to get the best that we can out of all of those businesses for our citizens. I'm thankful to give you a small talk about economic development, and thank you for allowing me, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome, sir. Now, if we can, we have now come to 21-327. Ms. Jones, are there any pending items?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. We've now come to item 21-328, our non-agenda speakers. And I would just like to remind our speakers that you have 5 minutes. And I will read the first name of the speaker, Ms. Susan Fink. Ma'am, if you would come forward, you have 5 minutes. Susan Fink. The next speaker is Mr. Mark Godaldig Yatrovsky. Mr. Yatrovsky, sir, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and other neighbors. Just as a point of information, the mask that I wear is not because I haven't been vaccinated. I've been fully vaccinated since March. It is for the protection of my neighbors. So we were listening raptly to your discussion of economic development, and that dovetails with my statements to you tonight. I am picking up the thread because I feel there's unfinished business from the last time I spoke to you. The designation of car washes as sort of business non grata that I feel your latest change to the zoning code encompassed shows what I think is short-sightedness. I definitely understand the desire to bring high-paying jobs to Portsmouth. But for that to happen, we have to have people with the skills to fill those jobs. And we also need authority that we don't have at present. In this Dillon Rule state, for example, localities cannot set a local minimum wage. I note that your legislative packet, which has been discussed here in a couple of prior sessions earlier this year, had no mention of requesting that the General Assembly grant Portsmouth or other localities the power to set a local minimum wage. I would think that would be a more productive avenue for you to travel along than trying to pick winners and losers. When you're talking about low-paying jobs, well, the hospitality industry has historically been a source of low-paying jobs. So restaurant workers, hotel, motel employees, they're all here, and yet you haven't put up any barriers to hotels and motels or restaurants opening in the city of Portsmouth, nor should you. Because the job of the city is to try to welcome businesses here and to apply reasonable regulation to those businesses so we are protecting the interests of our citizens, both potential employees and neighbors to those businesses. So I maintain that having an existing business in this city, as we did, open 2 more locations on property that was available in this city and provide additional jobs was not a bad idea. And some member of council made reference to food deserts and this being a mutually exclusive sort of use. Well, the 2 most recently opened car washes that I'm knowledgeable, that I have knowledge of, are adjacent to shopping areas that have grocery stores. So certainly that wasn't a factor. That wasn't a rationing of resources sort of decision. I think you would do better to ask for the authority that I suggested. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Miss Katrina Smith. Welcome, ma'am.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes.
Yes. I'm Katrina Smith. 2 Tuesdays ago when I spoke, I'm very observant. So I observed a few things when I was up here. And I'm here to speak on the crime and the gun violence again that we're experiencing here in our city of Portsmouth. DeAndre Barnes, it was a non-agenda item the last Tuesday I spoke. DeAndre, I remember you asking our city manager, you asked her, had we come up with a plan yet on the gun violence and what we're going to do? Because it had been a few months. And you said on the panel and said it was going to be 6 months before we came up with another plan. She looked down. She didn't look up at you. And she said they hadn't come up with a plan yet, and it would be brought up again this week, this time when we spoke. When I called to register to speak, and when they asked me what we were going to speak on, what I was going to speak on, and I told them, you know, the crime in our city, gun violence, and they said I would be registered as a non-topic, a non-agenda speaker. That was interesting. That once again this week, it was a non-topic. Why wasn't it a topic if it was going to be addressed again this week? Not only was it a non-topic, 2 days later, that Thursday, after we spoke on that, I look on Facebook, and out Charlestown, one of my Facebook friends and her daughter and her granddaughter had to duck down because they were shooting out Charlestown. So the bullets went and come through their window. 2 days after that. When I spoke last Tuesday, I didn't say much because I was trying not to get up here and be emotional. But it's hard not to be emotional when every week, several days out the week, they're shooting, they're having full-fledged shootouts, broad daylight, because they know there's nothing that's going to happen, because it's constantly being said that there's no police protection. There's not enough police. There's nothing we can do. Bill Moody, one thing I can respect, a couple of Tuesdays ago, you did come up with a plan for the catalytic converters. You came up with a plan on how to find the auto shops that are taking the stolen catalytic converters. You did come up with a plan for that. You know, it was a plan for some of the crime. But I would like to think our children's lives are more important, that human beings' lives are more important than a catalytic converter being stolen. When are we going to come up with a plan to save lives? You know, our babies are being, their lives are being stolen too. So are their lives not more important than a catalytic converter? Can you guys come together with a plan to save our babies' lives? You know, is that not more important? You know, a couple of us got up here a couple of Tuesdays ago and we spoke about crime, and it was silence. But when a couple of other people got up here and spoke on other things, they got feedback. But none of us got feedback when we spoke on the crime. It's like nobody wants to speak on it. I don't know if it's anything that you guys can come up with. Maybe you don't know what to do. But give us that. Tell us something. Silence, that's not helping us, because then we have to assume. We have to assume either you don't know what to do or you don't care. But one thing that we are sure, that we know in our community, that we're sure of, that we aren't divided about, is that we care. We care about our kids, and we care if they live. And we're tired of them dying. We don't want their deaths to keep being in vain every week. Every time you turn around, somebody's child is dying, and it's like nobody cares whether they live or not. And I'm tired of it. What is it going to take for, you know, somebody on the panel for one of your children or one of your grandchildren to die? Then are you going to come up with a plan? Is it going to matter to you then? If you get a call that one of your grandbabies is laying outside dead, are you still going to be silent? Or are you going to care then? Shannon Glover, would you care if it was your grandbaby or your 12-year-old child or grandchild? Mr. Moody, would you care? DeAndre Bonds, would you care? Paul Bowder, would you care? Miss Jones, would you care? Would you still look down and not look somebody in the face if it was your child or your grandchild laying outside dead when they get off the school bus? Would you come up with a plan, or would you care? We're ready for y'all to care like we care in our community. Y'all said y'all was going to come out in the community and start talking in the community. You know, at what point is that going to happen? Because we're waiting so we can know that you care. We would like to think that our lives and our children's lives are more important than a catalytic converter. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
Ms. Smith, I totally agree with you, because it was my 12-year-old cousin that was killed a couple of years ago, shot dead in Lincoln Park. So it's very important to me, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of really just bringing it up, because if we can't get a majority of council to really push for it, it's really not much that's going to be done. Crime is a real big issue, and we're losing a lot of people and a lot of kids in this city. That's why it's important that you guys continue to come up here and speak and continue to talk about these issues. We have an opportunity to do some things with the opera funding that we have that can tap into this crime, because it's going to take a whole bunch of approaches to actually deal with these issues. But we really need you guys to come up here on a regular basis until we actually do something and direct us what to do with this money and the things that we need to do in our city. I see we have Churchland Little League coming up to speak next. It's important that we invest in organizations like that because they deal directly with our children. We got to make sure that they have the things that they need so that they don't have to turn down children, and be able to take as many as possible so we can keep these kids out of trouble and put them in the right position so that we don't have to worry about them dying. A lot of people look at sports as just a sports program, but they don't see that those programs teach these kids about conflict mediation. They teach them about how to deal with their attitudes. And also, not only the sports help them with those things, it also just an avenue to teach them about other things. When you bring them to a basketball court, when you bring them to a football field, you can introduce them to STEM, other programs and things of that nature. So I just want you to know that I do care.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Battle, and then Councilman Woodard, sir.
Miss, I care as much for yours as I do for mine. Love for children is transferable. When a person that really loves their kids see other kids and other families, the same reflection of their child, that light is on the other kids. All my life, I have proved my love for my kids, your kids, and our communities. We have just peeled off $2 million for folk to come into those areas of need, but they had to be trained before they came, and conflict mediation and things like that. We've already done that. That'll start this week because the training is over. She just bought 50 tickets for the kids to go to Norfolk State's game in Dale's home and Swanson homes. And Saturday morning, I'll be there to give each one of them $10 of Paul Battle's money. We're trying, we know the urgency, we feel the same pain you feel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Smith, you know, if my silence or possibly any other council member silence is, you know, hurt you, I just want to, you know, be the first to say that I'm sorry. I know it's sometimes when we come to these meetings, you know, it's a long list, and sometimes we're instructed to, you know, listen and kind of talk afterwards, but I think we lose our train of thought, you know, just to be honest, because, you know, the list be so long. But to say, you know, we don't know, we don't care about the issues, I definitely care. You know, like you say, some of these incidents that happened in the past, you know, there was some of my family members. And just to let you know, I think you mentioned the incident about the young man who got shot off the bus. You know, I'm just not a council member. I actually went to that funeral, okay? You know, I don't need a personal invite, you know. I make sure I reach out, and you know, I let them know that I'm here because I really care. You know, I don't have to know the person personally. Vice Mayor Barnes actually attended that funeral with me, and it's not about propaganda at all. It's really a young man that's a part of this community, or a young woman, you know, whoever it is, that's a part of this community. And you know, that's one reason why I'm here, because I want to let you know that, you know, somebody does care, even if all the council or some of the council members can't be there. This is a hard situation, or a hard state that we in right now with all of this violence. But one thing about it, with some of these funds, we are trying to do our best to retain our police officers. I mean, you know, they have to make a living for their families, so it is a problem when they're leaving our cities, whatnot. But That is one thing that we're putting on our agenda. I think our city manager has made that clear. We talked about these things in private to formulate a plan for you. I'm not saying that is the plan. I'm just saying that's part of the plan. 'Cause we know that everybody has the right to be safe, not just us, us seven, or our city manager. Everybody has the right to be safe. But I'll tell you one thing, I do go into those communities and I continue to talk to people. My family still lives in those communities. Now, I ain't saying I ain't been in those communities at a certain time now, because I still know better. But at the same time, I just want to let you know that you do have some strong leadership here that is working within those communities. And I'm talking to my grassroots organizations every day. I might not be talking about any figures, but, I'm still talking to them every day, bouncing ideas off of each other, just seeing what's going on in the community. I think some people may have seen the video. They just went viral, I guess, with the fathers in the schools. That's they've been patrolling and people been saying they've been working, stopping fights in schools, and pretty much maybe we get some more present with parents and community leaders and police officers. Maybe we can have some type of intervention with these kids out here as well. So just want to let you know that I am working. I can't speak for everyone on the council, but I do assume that they are working as well. I think they care. And, if you need anything, once again, please feel any time to reach out to me, because I'm here. I'm boots on the ground every single day. All right.
Councilman Whitaker, Dr. Whitaker?
Yes, and this isn't just to Ms. Smith, but it's to all of those that have come and expressed concern. Elections have consequences. And what you have seen over the years is that you have had persons on council who were not conscious of the conditions in our communities. Crime is nothing new. We know the issues that cause crime. A large part of it is poverty. When we look at the social conditions that people just then by choice decide to be poor, but structures have been put in place. That's why you hear us discussing issues such as not just jobs, but how much will these jobs pay? Okay? And so elections have consequences. And so when a few years ago, when I was on council and I brought up the poverty study and trying to address poverty issues, and we saw those things swept under the rug. When we had a police chief here in Tanya Chapman who was trying to implement community policing strategies, diversifying the police force, because we have to be truthful about it, that there are some elements in our community that are going to have to be addressed by the police. I don't believe all crime is addressed by that, but some of it has to be. And you see how she was marched out of this town, and a lot of us sat back silent and allowed it to happen. And then we come to 2021 expecting a miracle. Okay, so I just want to be real about it. The issues that we are seeing today are not new to 2021. It is a systemic neglect that has occurred in our community. And so when you hear issues of poverty being raised, living wages, minority contracting, it has been a long time in this town and other towns around this country where our communities have been neglected. This is the first time that a city council voted to approve the full budget of the school system. But yet at the same time, some of these people I hear coming in here complaining about crime, and then they said that we shouldn't increase the budget for the schools. And then they come and talk about crime, and at the same time, they want us to be able to not limit assault rifles. And so let's not come in here complaining about an issue that you are helping to perpetuate. I'm not talking to you, Miss, speaking to you. And so I'm saying elections have consequences. And until we put people on council that are conscious, and I think that you have some up here that are conscious of our community without having their feet committed to the good old boy system, okay? So you got to realize that dynamic is going on as well. And so I'm saying to you that the issues of crime go deeper than just trying to address the element of what we're seeing happen in the shooting. The question becomes, why are they shooting? You know, and you got to get to the socioeconomics of it, and that's what I feel as a council person. I came up here initially to increase the education budget because I know that that's going to help our children. And so that's the mindset that we have to continue to be about. I appreciate your genuineness as well as all the others that have come, but please do not think that the silence is any means, because I would just say go back and check out the record and you'll see what we have been speaking to.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Lucas Burke.
Right, thank you, Mayor. And this comment is for not only Ms. Smith, but all of our speakers who will come to speak about the crime issue. I was in attendance at the meeting where our city manager presented a crime plan, a strategic plan. And it's not just going to be one aspect of, you know, pop goes the weasel, here's a plan, and then it's going to fix everything. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take our community. It's going to take our families. It's going to take our churches. It's going to take our civic leaders. It's going to take our state. It's going to take resources. Our sheriff is working together with our police department to come up with to find solutions for why does the violence happen. But where are the guns coming from? You know, where are these 13-year-old and 14-year-olds getting the gun from? You know, so this is not anything that's created by, you know, the children. Somebody higher up or somebody with some other power or some other resources is bringing it here. You know, so that's another one of the root causes, in addition to poverty, you know, the gun control. You know, how are they being allowed to have access to so many guns? And then children are getting caught in a crossfire. I have a coworker who had a nephew who came here from Georgia to visit his dad, and he get gunned down walking into the house. You know, so, you know, is that, you know, how does that happen? But that's not going to take us writing on a piece of paper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. And if we follow these 5 steps to the end, that it's not going to happen again. You know, so our city manager has a plan. We had a whole dais full of people who were from the state police, the sheriff's departments, and all of these people who have come together to offer us resources and solutions to try to get something together. You know, I guess what we need to know now is where are we? What's our next step? Because they don't know that we had a special presentation in a Thursday meeting, and we came here to hear it. But perhaps maybe we need to present that as a public hearing or a forum so that the citizens will know all of the resources that we're putting in place. And then after that meeting, say what the next step is going to be and what date. And I think that'll give people at least a sense of, you know, that there is something, we know about it, and this is when we can expect to see something happening with it. So, you know, we all empathize with you. We've all been, you know, a victim, not per se, but through our family members or our cousins or our relatives or our church members who've been affected. So we feel in the pain, you know, but just, you know, be patient with us as we work through something, because it's not a simple 5-step plan and it's going to cure it all. And it's a nationwide issue. And I believe if we all get that presentation, then there would be more people that can share it with the community, that there is something that we have in place to mitigate the crime that has been occurring.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Moody, sir.
You know, I agree with my colleague. I think we do a poor job of communicating what's being done. And I think we owe it not only to Ms. Smith or to anyone who's lost someone due to this crime wave. I believe that we should report, maybe a quarterly report card, and share the statistics. You know, we hear them on the news media, but let's share them. Let's hear a report back from the police chief, from the sheriff, even the state police, on what's being done to get our arms around it. It's not unique to Portsmouth either. Crime is up in just about every urban setting. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working hard to get our arms around our own, but drugs are flowing into our country. Drugs are in our city. I'm convinced that some of these shootouts, they aren't because John doesn't like Pete or somebody stepped on his foot doing a basketball game. I think a lot of it is drug related. So I think to ignore that is, I think we'd be remiss to ignore that. And the ARPA money that we're talking about, I haven't seen any suggestions. We talk about guns. I haven't seen any money allocated on buying back guns. I hear every meeting words of empathy that you know, the kids are getting killed, adults are getting killed. A lot of good people have lost their lives due to a lot of bad people in our city that are want to settle things with a gun. They're dealing in drugs, and I think we need to obviously get it under control. But to say that somebody doesn't care about a child getting killed, or we care more about a catalytic converter, that's I won't even address that. We all care. If it was a simple solution, everybody up here and everybody in this chamber would have already shared the solution. The solution is a lot of things. It's the recreation part, getting the young kids starting at an early age, getting them something to do. That's part of it. The other part of it's law enforcement. As we said here tonight, we're down approximately, depending on who you hear, 70 or more police officers. So that needs to be beefed up. So there are a lot of different elements, and there's no simple solution. But we all know we got to work harder. Obviously, what we're doing is not enough right now, or the shootings and the murders wouldn't be happening. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Barnes, then Councilman Battle, and then we're going to go to the next speaker.
Just to be clear, the press conference, I did ask about that in the meeting, and I asked, did we come out of that with a plan? And the city manager did indicate we did not have a plan. Also, to kind of talk about, to elaborate a little bit off of what Councilman Whitaker said, that there's a famous poet, and his name is Sean Carter, and he said, "We not doing crime just for the sake of doing crime. We doing crime because we ain't doing fine." We have to deal with the root issues, like he said earlier. And I know we say all the time that we do care, this is important to us, but I think what the people are tired of is just those words. They want action. And your action shows that you care, not a bunch of words, not a bunch of press conferences, not a bunch of this and that, but actually action. And I think in all meetings we have, well, a few of us have been given solutions, have been talking about some things that we can do. But, you know, it's time that we do it, and instead of just continue to talk about it on a regular basis. That seems to be the growing trend in this city, on this council. A lot of us just talk, and not put work to action. And, you know, I've heard the mention of some important things that need to be done, but when it comes up for discussion, we don't hear people fighting for it, or we hear people talking against it. So, like, for instance, I've heard, I've brought recreation up a couple of times, a couple of other members, but some of the other members haven't state that as a priority. So again, we're back at the talking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Battle? Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Something that's often missed is the parent. As a parent, we try to make the best choices for our kids, but we often don't make the best choices. Here's an example. It's kind of hard for a kid to have a gun in a home and the mother who suspect or the father that he's not doing those things that are right, and for them to miss that gun. Now, oftentimes, a parent will just try to do what's best for their kid and overlook it or say he might need it. But I would urge you, when you see your children with guns or going on the wrong path, to approach them at that point, to get those weapons. If that's a bigger thing than you can handle, for their sake, you need to call the police or Michael Moore at the Sheriff's Department. And see, if you do this, then I can ask the sheriff and Mike to start a gang and let you refer your kids to them to join a gang that want to do the right things. But you just can't sit back and say, well, I don't want to take it from my child. He might get hurt, somebody might, but he's going to do that to somebody else's child. So you got to help us out as well and not smooth over and look over these things. Confront these kids. If you don't want to do it, call the police. Say, my child got a gun. And I'll put money into Mike and the chief of police to start a good gang. A gang that care about one another, do good things, positive things, dream. So you help us out as well. A lot of times that's overlooked. But all of us bear responsibility. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ms. Smith, this, and to others, my wife is a sociologist, teaches sociology at Old Dominion University. Look up this documentary and show it to family and friends. She showed it to her class the other day. It's called Jim Crow of the North. Jim Crow of the North. Okay, it's a YouTube. Check that out and then apply that to Portsmouth, because it's a documentary from University of Minnesota. But check out that. It's not an end-all, but it gives you some good insight to what I was talking about. Jim Crow of the North.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Smith, one of the things I listened intently to your comments, and one of the things I want to tell you and say to you, all of us up here are public servants. We're families, we're fathers, we're brothers, we're husbands, we're grandfathers in my case. I cannot explain to you or express to you in just mere words the loss of any child and any person in our community is unacceptable. And I want you to know that I don't have all the answers. I really don't. I wish I did. I wish I could protect every child, every person out there. But I will tell you what I will do. And it's not just talk. It's really just what I want to share with you and anybody else that wants to listen. Let's work together. Let's be better informed, as you indicated. Let's make sure we know what we're up against. And then let's come together. Because the only way, I don't know any other way. The only way for us to defeat this, what we're dealing with, is to come together and share. And we will always, everyone up here will always be open to that. You call us anytime, and you come and see us and let us know how we can help you and your community, because that's what we're here to do. Okay? Thank you for coming forward, ma'am. I appreciate it very much. And our next speaker, Ms. Rosa Williams. Good evening, Ms. Williams, man. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. It's been a while since I feel like I'm at the principal's office, so excuse my nervousness. Sergeant of Arms, can I give you to pass out either one of these to our council members? City manager and city clerk, I did not print one out for you all, so please excuse me. Excuse me. Greetings to our mayor, Mayor Glover, our vice mayor, Mr. Barnes, our council members, city clerk, and city managers. My name is Rosa Williams, and I'm speaking on behalf of these awesome people, some of them to my right. We represent Churchland Pop Warner. We are representing Churchland 12U Pop Warner team. My position is the head team mom. I'm also a mother and the wife of the head coach as well, so I kind of have a few roles that I have partaked on as well. We do come before our city council to request funding for our Churchland 12U Black team. The Churchland Football Organization, through Pop Warner, requests your support and funding to the Pop Warner National Championship, December 4th through the 11th in Orlando, Florida. Our focus is to develop young individuals who will act as role models in their local communities, academics first, as well as athletics. Our mission is to teach fundamentals of football, fostering self-discipline, goal setting, and goal attainment, while developing the self-confidence in these young athletes to apply these attributes to reach higher academic achievements, what we call life skills. As with most nonprofit organizations that is dedicated to youth sports of any kind, providing quality uniforms, equipment, and essentials are on a very limited budget is a task. In addition, we also must cover operating expenses for football usage, association fees, and travel expenses. It is our belief that no child shall be denied the opportunity to participate due to financial disadvantages. With the undefeated season, yes, they are undefeated. With the undefeated season, our young scholars has the chance to embark on an opportunity like no other, the Pop Warner National Championship in December 4th through the 11th in Orlando, Florida. They will not only compete with those on their level, with those in the region, but also skilled players from around the world. This is a meaningful and lifetime experience for our young men. We are vastly approaching our deadline to help solicit funds for our young boys to make sure not just one, but all 22 of those boys get to Florida. And as a city who collectively looks forward to creating and implementing positive reinforcement within our community, we seek your assistance via resources and community partnerships. We thank you all for your thoughtful time and your consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Vice Mayor Barnes.
So one of the things that was proposed with the opera funding was providing funds to get organizations like you, because I know, as somebody who also runs a nonprofit organization, I know how hard it is in running an organization and how you don't want to turn down kids, but sometimes you financially don't have the ability to do it. But when you think about if you turn this kid down and that's the kid that's dribbling his basketball in his neighborhood and a drive-by happens, so you do it anyway. So this is what I was talking about when I mentioned the $3 million towards nonprofit organizations. And this is where I said Churchland Football Association has been a part and partner with the city for a long time, which is why organizations like that should be first to the table. They shouldn't have to call us and ask to come to the table. We should be calling them because they do some great work with our children. So I just want to let you guys know that I appreciate the work that you do. I know that you're saving a lot of lives. I know that to you it's more than football. It's about really changing lives and making sure that we give these kids the best opportunity to succeed, because you're not just team moms and football coaches, you're social service workers. You go to the schools and talk to the teachers. The parents call you. So I just wanted you guys to know I appreciate the work that you do, and I wanted to elaborate a little bit so people can understand what you guys do.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Miss Monica Van. Good, we're doing well, ma'am.
Yeah, this is Miss Lady from last meeting. So good evening, council members, mayor, vice mayor, how y'all
Good
doing?
evening.
Don't do that.
You have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Don't do that either. On October 12th, that was my first attendance to any form of a Portsmouth City Council meeting. I'm 40 years in this city, born, raised, and bred in Cavalier Manor. Mr. Battle, thank you for your service. So I don't usually do political type events, not really into the, kind of misrepresentations of people, the lies and things that get put out. And when I did witness some of the things at the last meeting, this council team needs some help. There were levels of disrespect and condescending behavior displayed at the meeting, and I know our community sees it too, which is probably the reason they haven't jumped to support you. So we have been lacking a high level of community spirit in Portsmouth that I grew up with, that I love. I love my city. I'm talking about from uptown to downtown. I love Portsmouth. And to see it get to this point is very hurtful. As Ms. Smith stated, Mr. Moody, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to actually put together a plan. Something physical and tangible that could be done to help with a crime situation inside the city of Portsmouth. Now, I do feel like the incentivizing of businesses, reporting catalytic converters, and then criminalizing the individuals that are using that as a means to provide for their family, that is a tactic. Yes, it is. However, I propose some different approaches to combat the root cause instead of just the symptoms to the issue. We brought up in the last meeting the blighted, empty buildings inside the city of Portsmouth. We have several of them. How about us developing a program that incorporates young children that maybe don't have athletic abilities to learn how to renovate, build houses, plumbing, HVAC services. Let's revitalize the community with the people in the community to give them respect of the community. Because Lord knows I respect the house that I pay my mortgage on. So that might be a level that we could go with. Mr. Bonds, I love your program. I'm very familiar with it. So with your program, with the coaching and athletics and the Churchland program, let's start bringing kids that maybe can't always do it on the field. Let's start producing referees, announcers. Let's start teaching them the back scenes to the whole sporting industry, because everybody loves some sport, professional, whether it's NBA, NFL. You might love golf. It is so much more than just that one player on the field that is doing something to make that a successful broadcast, a successful game, tournament, etc. We can start putting tools into the kids that give them more than just certain abilities, because it takes more than just the one. Also, several of you have your own businesses. Let's start developing some courses that start teaching everybody the groundwork on entrepreneurship, on how to start small minority businesses. So that way they can have a little more insight before they get out, limit some of the mistakes that potentially could be made, and have a better running start when they do get going. So since conversation seems to be the tactic that council likes to apply to such a graphic dilemma, How about let's have some informational sessions on some real facts of life? Let's start teaching the kids that you can overcome adversities, that you will have things that will happen to you. They will knock you down, they will hurt, but you can get up and move forward. You can be better tomorrow than you've ever been in your yesterday. And they should not let one moment nor one mistake dictate their future. That's a conversation that should be had. Because there's a different population inside the city of Portsmouth. And I'm a member of it. It's the convicted felons with full restorations. I vote. And it's a lot of people like me that vote also. And we understand that things take time. It's not going to be a quick chop at the block, one hit wonder that's going to fix it all. We get that. But time has been given, and we are exhausted. So I would like to thank the nonprofits, church and organization, for taking it upon themselves to take the time to physically do something. Y'all have yourselves a blessed night.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Freddie Taylor.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. You have 5 minutes.
All right, I want to share my time with a parent who has suffered the loss of a child, and I will yield some of my time to her, and then I'll come back. Ms. Monica Atkins.
Good evening. My name is Monica Atkins.
Good evening.
First of all, good evening, Mayor Glover, Vice Mayor, and the councilmen. My name is, I wear many hats. Not only am I a parent, I'm a parent educator at the Up Center in Portsmouth, and I'm the executive director for Stop the Violence. I sit here and I hear all the success stories, right? But a success story that I can share that Stop the Violence took the time out this week, and we was able to feed the 75 bus drivers that's overlooked for Bus Appreciation Week. Not just that, being a parent educator in the city of Portsmouth where I serve, I'm terrified to go in the low-income areas where the families that I serve from prenatal to 5 years of age to teach parenting classes, to assist with catching children with developmental delays where I do screenings. So, again, this is not happening where I live at in Chesapeake, but I serve the city of Portsmouth because this is where I'm from. But just imagine coming down the streets of Portsmouth, just thinking about which route to take because you don't know when a shootout is gonna come. Imagine checking your inbox all day long. Miss Monica, it's been a murder here, it's been a murder here. I feel like I'm the police officer, okay? Just imagine I turn my ringer off because I do so much for my city of Portsmouth, but I live in Chesapeake. I had a phone call where they said my 6-year-old grandson was shot off of Deep Creek Boulevard. I had 30 missed calls, but when I tried to get in contact with my grandson's mother, she said, no, it wasn't your grandson that was shot. It was his little cousin that was shot. So again, like Miss Katrina said, we have to put something in place. Like I said, I wear many hats. Stop the Violence is very hands-on in the community. When I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. This Thursday, we're partnering with the health department. And I mean, just yesterday out getting things, I wanted to give up. I really wanted to give up. But you know what I couldn't do was say, Lord, I thank you, because guess what? They messed with the wrong son. I don't even sit here and try to bring my son's names up because it's been 7 years for my son in December the 4th. But I can tell you this, after December the 4th when my son died, it was 30 murders in the year of 2015. 2016, 20 or more. 2017, 20 or more. 2018, 20 or more. 2019, 20 or more. 2020, 20 or more. Today, as of 2021, we have 27 murders in the city of Portsmouth. So that's all I have to say. I'm gonna let Mr. Freddie continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Atkins. I want to go off the stats that I've read from Portsmouth.gov. Portsmouth has a 96.7% increase in violent crimes. We are 35.7 in America, and America itself is only 22.7. Portsmouth is second in the state of Virginia, only behind Petersburg, who is 37.9. 2019, there were 15 murders in the city. 2020, there were 29 murders. And as of today, we are at 27. So I asked you asked about why people come and wonder what the plan is. Well, where was the plan at from 2019 to 2020? Because there was an increase. Where was the plan from 2020 to 21? Here's the increase. These are the stats that's on your website. Like I said, I'm not here to bash anybody, but enough is enough. You get paid to represent people, but all you do is talk about what's going on. It's time for solutions. These kids are dying for real out here in the street. What programs do y'all have for people who coming home? There are no skill centers here. And I said this before 2 weeks ago when I was here, and you asked everybody to be quiet, nobody answered anything. That's not fair, because y'all work for us. So y'all have to begin to respond accordingly, or these elections will have repercussions that y'all will regret.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Barnes.
So, based off you guys' stats, so what you're saying is basically that, because I know somebody said that everybody's having crime, but you're saying that what's happening in Portsmouth is unique and not the same as other cities, correct?
Portsmouth, according to the website, portsmouth.gov,
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, your time to speak is up.
Well, I was asking him a question.
I know, but if you're gonna ask him a question, he needs to come forward. I don't want you speaking from there. You can ask the question, but I don't want you speaking from there.
Yes, sir. I'll come forward.
Just to remind everybody, there is a decorum that we must keep in our meeting in order to keep order. And as the chair, that is my responsibility to keep the meeting in order. So that is why we have the rules at present. Okay, sir?
I wasn't being disrespectful. I just was responding to the
Thank you, sir. You may answer the question.
According to the Portsmouth.gov website, 35.7 for Portsmouth is the highest in the Hampton Roads Tidewater area. Comparable with the U.S. as a whole is 22.7. The only one that I could find within the state was the city of Petersburg, who had 39.7. Violent crime increases. Portsmouth had a 96.7% increase, comparable with every city, and we're the smallest land size around here. But we have the highest violent crime, and murder was #1 for the city of Portsmouth. It's on your website.
So,
because we asked last time about the statistics. We never got them. So I looked myself, and that's what I found. I found from 2019, in November, because they go by month, November 19th, 2019, there were 15 total. Again, November 19th, 2020, there were 29. And as of right now, we're not even in November, we're already at 27.
so
It's sad.
last year we almost had 40. We broke the record from 93. But so from your stats, and I'm just trying to make the public aware. I know I'm from Portsmouth. I've
Yes,
seen
sir.
it.
Yes,
But
sir.
from your stats, this issue is not new. It's been going on for years. So I think a council member said earlier that elections have consequences.
Yes, sir.
It's people that's been in office for all them years.
Yes, sir.
Remember that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Our next speaker is Mr. Tony Goodwin.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, City Manager. This evening I come before you, first of all, my name is Tony Goodwin. I reside in the Parkview section of the city. And it is relative to Parkview because I was happy to find out that it was introduced. One of the ideas that we brought to this table was, safe school zones and looking at the laws that were made in '82 and revised in '96 to make them safe school zones for illegal guns was a tool, I believe, that was helpful. In fact, I've been championing this for probably close to 12 years now in identifying what kind of tool we could use. Obviously, we're very reactionary right now to the present situation, but proactive is a tool that I think is very important for us all to embrace. Yes, it is almost reactionary. What I'm suggesting here is using these signs and these boundaries of a 1,000-foot buffer around our public schools to protect these kids and making this a safe school zone. But I will say, again, I want to thank the city staff and everyone who was involved in the background to actually implement the first 20 signs into Parkview just a few weeks ago. And I thank the director of the department that started this process. He showed it to me, and I was very pleased to see the action is happening in this fashion. But I do implore the opportunity to continue this project, where I estimated close to 250 signs throughout our city around all of our schools, to keep up the faith and keep up the good work by doing this for all of our schools and improving upon the signs that have been there for 30, 40 plus years that need to be re-upped on school property as well. Again, these 1,000-foot buffers implore every community, every citizen that's inside of those zones to say, I'm in a safe school zone. I'm going to look out better to make sure that we deter any violent crime or any crime that would obviously take the life of a child or a life of a person at all, because it is inside that school zone, and also any drug-related activity. And that will start telling the bad guys and the bad ladies that are in our community, don't come to these zones, don't come to these areas, because those punishments could get me about 3 times more than what I would normally get anywhere else. But I would take this one more step. I believe that law, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Stromberg, if you find this law is also relative to registered daycare facilities and also facilities that handle children and cater to children. So our children's museum may actually be considered as part of a safe school zone opportunity where we can protect those. And that 1,000-foot buffer will go almost 2 city blocks in downtown. So the shooting that happened in the 300 block of High Street, if they do find that person, could very well face 3 times the charges because he basically shot a person in front of a business 2 doors down from it. Here just recently, the shooting that happened over in Simonsdale happened at a business which was basically right across the street from Simonsdale Presbyterian Daycare Facility. So again, I think this is a great tool that we can work with. It's a proactive tool. It gives us something to say to our community that we are aware that if there's activity that's illegal that could possibly deter another death and potentially another child being brought into the world of drugs and use that to perpetuate any further crime, I would say that's what we can hang our hat on, that it's going to work as a good tool for us to carry forward. And not just you guys doing this, but the citizens being able to do this with the help of our police department, our sheriff's department, our behavioral health department, and get this thing under control. And again, I champion the cause, and I thank once again city staff, the city manager's office, and everyone involved with getting those first 20 signs out. Let's keep up the good work. But thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Paul Tuttle.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, and servers of the city. My name is Paul Tuttle, born and raised in Portsmouth. I'm 45 years old, raised in the Simonsdale section of Portsmouth. I understand the violence that's been happening in Portsmouth isn't nothing new. It's not. But being someone who's been here my entire life, I am observing that it is relatively higher than it's ever been. My heart is broken for any community that's having to deal with the fear of stepping out their front door, wondering if somebody's going to drive by and have a drive-by shooting. My neighborhood was affected last week off of Vic Street. Tony just talked about it just a second ago. So a gentleman was shot out in front of the 757 Smoke Shop in the Simonsdale area. And the two things I want to bring to your all attention that I want to speak about today. Number one, that smoke shop. I'm going to see what I have to do and what I can do to have that smoke shop removed from the area, and they need to move. They ever since the smoke shop has opened up there, and, to keep in mind, in this little area, if you haven't been there, there's a small convenience store. It's been there since the 60s. And then right across the street from it, there used to be a barber shop. That barber shop has turned into a smoke shop. There's a smoke shop like every mile in Portsmouth, okay? We don't need another smoke shop. That particular smoke shop that is right there, it's causing issues. It's bringing riffraff into that small community that our community don't want. I'm going to put together a petition and present the petition to the city with hopes that we can close that shop. I'm sorry for the owner of that shop, but it's unfortunate. It's bringing riffraff we didn't used to have. Second part I want to bring to your attention. Okay, we're going to have church here for just a second. All right, there is a solution for this city and for every city in the country. That city is Jesus Christ. That city is we have turned our backs on God. We have decided to follow different gods. We have decided to turn other things into gods. Okay, and I'm going to read from you right now in Psalms 33:12. Sorry. What joy for the nation whose God is Lord, whose people has chosen as his inheritance. The Lord looks down from heaven and sees the whole human race. From his throne he observes all who live on the earth. He made their hearts and he understands everything they do. The best equipped army cannot save a king, nor great strength enough to save a warrior. Don't count on your war horse to give you victory, for all its strength cannot save you. Basically, what this scripture is saying is that we have turned our back on God. We started the city council meeting, and the last time I was here, we started it opened with prayer. Today, we opened it with a moment of silence. Now, I'm a little disappointed in that, because that's the one thing I used to think was really cool, that it would open up in prayer. Okay, yes, I understand there's different religions, and I know it's the political right thing to say that we are not, separation of church and state, whatever. But guys, for those of you who believe in Scripture, if you're going to deny that, you might as well deny the whole book. According to what I just read to you, blessed is a nation whose God is Lord. We need to be praying. We need to be praying for each other. It don't matter what color we are. Don't matter what neighborhood we're in. We need to be praying for the city. We need to be praying for you guys, the leaders. We need to be praying for you guys. We need to be praying for our police officers. We need to be on our knees. We need to get real with God. And you know what you get real when you get real with God, when you get real with the Scripture? You get love. Because love conquers all. Yeah, I know it sounds kumbaya. And I know some of the things I'm saying is probably going to go in one ear and go out the other. But I can promise you, a nation that prays and a nation that follows Scripture and a nation that loves equally is a nation that is strong, is a nation that's not divided. That is where we're at today, people. We have to get back to that. I know this. I know there's other cities. I'm not worried about every other city. I live in this one here. And I want the violence to stop. And if we can just show a little bit of love. No more talk about politics and stuff like that. I know we're always going to have our differences in politics, right? Okay? I have different politics than some of the folks up here. I know I do, because I'm a conservative. But I'm a conservative that loves people. I don't care if you're a Democrat or not. I'll open up the door for you. I don't care what race or religion or anything you are. Because you know what? According to the Scripture, according to the Word of God, that's what He wants me to do. Jesus died for every single one of us. Every single one of us, man. He wants us to love, and He wants us to share the same type of character that He showed us on that cross that day. He died for each and every one of us. Whatever sins that we have in our life right now, and I'm speaking to the council specifically, because you guys are our leaders, and we need you to be right with the Lord. If there is anything in your life that you need to take to the Lord, take it to Him tonight, man. Give it to Him. Ask for forgiveness for whatever that sin is, so your prayers won't be hindered. Okay? That's all I got to say. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
You don't have to come back.
Councilmember Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. You don't have to come back to the dais, but you mentioned the moment of silence. Actually, Section 14 in our council rules, the first order of business, number A, is an invocation. A moment of silence is not an invocation. I find it strange that we have 200-plus churches. Previous councils have had an invocation. I would recommend that our council get back to an invocation. Moment of silence is not an invocation. It's a nothing, if you ask me. So perhaps we can work on that and invite some of our numerous churches, if they would like to come and open our meeting with an invocation. Our United States Congress does that. Some people say, oh, separation of church and state. Invocation's not promoting a particular religion, so.
I will gladly volunteer to open up every single one of these city councils for the next year in prayer, if you'll have me.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. That's all I have.
Seeing no other business to conduct.
Boom.
Oh, Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mr. Paul, for the kind words and the prayer over these council members. I just want to just be clear: is this the incident that happened? Was that a previous hair shop or beauty parlor or something? I don't think it was a barber shop. I'm just trying to make sure the location is correct.
Yes, sir. It was previously a barber shop. It was a barber shop all through I live in the exact same neighborhood that I grew up in. In my entire life, it was a barber shop. And then the barber shop closed for a period of time, and then the smoke shop opened up into that barber shop.
And how long has that business been there?
I'm going to guess probably maybe 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah, it's relatively new, along with the activity that we're having to see arise. And we're hearing more gunshots than normal. I'm not saying that that's because of,
Absolutely.
It's just one thing that if we can change, at least for that one part, that would help the community. Like I said, there's smoke shops all over Portsmouth. Why does that one have to have the type of activity that it does when you have them on Portsmouth Boulevard? You got two on Portsmouth Boulevard, one in the Elmhurst Shopping Center, one down there by the I forgot the name of it, but where Town Bank is. There's plenty of smoke shops. We don't need another smoke shop, especially right here in our community. There's children. There is a daycare that is within a stone's throw to that smoke shop. It just doesn't make sense. I wish I'd have known that there was. I don't know if there's any type of ordinances or anything, or that it has to be specific for a smoke shop. But it'd be nice to see another barber shop or something else, something that's actually a little bit more conducive for the community.
Well, I'll get your information. I'll see, can we talk to city manager about that actual location? If there's any update we can get on that.
Actually, the city attorney and I was just communicating about looking into the activity at that location to see if it falls within some of the criteria that we've set for criminal blight.
Right,
Mr.
absolutely.
Tuttle, if you would see me after the meeting, we have a criminal blight program I can talk to you about.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Having no other business to conduct for the meeting, this meeting is adjourned. Have a safe trip home, everyone.